Hey everyone, welcome to the Tuesday, February 11th SIG release meeting. My name is Jeremy and I will be the host today. Before we get going, just a reminder that this meeting is covered by the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which essentially means be excellent to one another and treat each other with respect. This is recorded and will be available on YouTube at some point. I think we still need to fix the automation for that, but hopefully we'll be on YouTube shortly. If you have any items you'd like to add to the agenda, please feel free to do that. We have an open discussion section at the end. It's probably the best place for things unless it slots into one of the other sections. If anybody would like to volunteer to note take today, that would be super great. Otherwise, I can try to juggle both of those things. And in the chat, Melanie asked if we are going to have a KubeCon EU London. Are we all going? I think probably large chunks of us are going. At least some mass of us will be there, and it would be really great to meet up. We did that at the Meet the Contributors during Salt Lake City. That was pretty cool. Got to meet a lot of great people. So hopefully we can do the same thing. Fingers crossed. All right. Anybody that would like to introduce themselves if you haven't been to a SIG release meeting before? I think I recognize most people here. But here's the opportunity. So if you'd like to, feel free to unmute and say hello.
Hi, I've never been to a SIG release meeting. Maybe that's a quick intro. So hi, I'm Mario. I am co-chair for SIG Contrib X, but the reason why I am here is that we took over API Snoop and the updating and maintaining the conformance tests for Kubernetes since December last year. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
So when you say we, Mario, just for clarity, are you referring to Contrib-X? I don't think you are you?
No, sorry. Yeah, I mean with Kubernetes. So we took this over from II, who maintained this in the past, and this torch now passed down to Kubernetes officially beginning from 1st of January 2025.
Awesome. Great to get to work with you more on release related things. All right. Anybody else? Okay, then we will jump into sub-project updates. And we will start off with the patch releases. So I think we've got patch releases scheduled for today, but I believe we wanted to wait for the Go updates to be done.
Updates to land, yeah.
Yeah, and they still haven't. I would guess at this point, it would probably be advantageous for us to communicate that we're going to delay those at least a day.
Yeah.
I think just given the timeline, right? It's almost
it's 1 over here.
Yeah, it's 11 here.
East Coast. So yeah, it might make sense to push. Do we know if we have approvals, or we're waiting for the cherry picks, or it's just fully?
I think when I just looked a few minutes ago, it looks like they're all approved.
Okay.
I haven't gone through the whole checklist yet to make sure, but I think the last round of things I saw were approved and still had the holds. So we probably need to go through and just kind of
Gotcha.
get those over the line, which I will try to work on this afternoon. Yeah, Sasha said he thinks they're ready to go. So once we're done with this meeting, I will start dropping the holds and follow through those things. And then
Cool.
I'll draft a note to send that we're gonna delay the releases just to get the go bumps in. All right, so patches due today, waiting on the go bumps. And AI, oops, sorry, I'm note taking while I'm talking.
Keep going, I'll capture it.
Okay. All right, any questions or anything else about patch releases that we want to dive into before we move on? All right. Next up is OBS packages. I don't know if we have anybody to give an update on those. I think that's kind of been Marco's thing. I don't see him on.
Yeah, we don't have anyone.
Probably the same for supply chain. So if we don't see Puerco, so I guess we can probably skip over to the release team stuff. It's an exciting time for the release team. Enhancements freeze is pretty soon. Nina, do you want to walk us
Yeah.
through?
So yeah, pretty exciting. Enhancements freeze is scheduled for Thursday. So if anyone has any questions about that, post in the release channel or the enhancements channel. I linked the tracking sheet so you can see all the pretty enhancements of the different breakdown in the burn down view. But to recap, we have 87 enhancements currently on the tracking board. Um, there are 36 that are actually tracked and 47 that are at risk. So we'll see what the actual number is after the freeze. Yeah, and the enhancements team did an amazing job handling the influx in the last couple of weeks. So shout out to them.
Cool. I love seeing those numbers. They're so high.
They stress me out when they're high, but they'll drop. They'll drop at code
It'll
freeze.
drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll drop massively,
We'll
but like
we'll lose
87, I
half
was
of
like,
them, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It was very
That's-
interesting seeing like it was very reasonable at the beginning of the release, and then
Mhm.
suddenly in like the last
No.
2 weeks, it was like, oh,
every
Yeah.
time.
Every
we're
time.
Every
just we're just waiting for the prayers for deadline extensions
Yeah.
to come in a bit. If they haven't started floating in already.
They haven't. Do
Okay.
you need anything, Nina, from me, or are you good?
I think we're good. It is, I guess, a little surprising that there hasn't been any enhancements that like deadline, but I guess that's more of a code freeze thing that
You
people
will
ask for
get
early deadlines.
You'll still get some, just not that many, and they will come in at the 11th hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or after.
Nobody ever proactively asks
Does
for
enhancement
except yeah.
deadline? Yeah.
No, and really for code freeze, people only proactively do them by like a day,
Yeah.
maybe two if we're lucky. Though I do want to force people to do them early for docs freeze, but like that's
I do like want to call out that if you look at the note like the SIGs that have submitted enhancements, SIG node does have a lot.
they always do. That is an ongoing
So,
issue.
Like proportionally it's kind of funny. There's
Yeah.
34 enhancements from SIG node and yeah. Um
That's also typical. And if we continue to have issues with Signode and deadlines, we have a potential solution.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, cool. Thanks for the update. If there's anything that you need from SIG release in general, please feel free to reach out and ping. I'm back this week, so I can totally approve things and review. And
Yeah, I was gonna ask, are there any pending access things? I know that there were a few that floated by that I looked at, but are
I
there
think
any?
we're good. I'll double check. But the last couple of org requests I think were merged in, so
Okay,
we should be all set.
cool.
all right, awesome. Any questions for Nina or the release team?
I guess one last thing to call out is next week is the Alpha 2 cut. So I know we had some issues with the OBS stage. I don't know if this is like the right time to bring it up, but I guess is that resolved now, or like is there someone I should ask to touch base to make sure that next week's release is going to go smoothly?
I think Sasha created the project for it. I
Okay,
think it's an
perfect.
ongoing thing where like every time there's a release now, we need to do the new OBS project so that that stuff is there and ready for publishing. It doesn't create it by default.
Yeah,
Probably
we probably want that as a post-release step. I think we need to work on our post-release playbook. There are a few things that need to happen that often
dope.
become trouble for the next release. So
Yeah, let's add that as an action here too, so we can.
Yeah, that sounds great. So we'll I think then it should be good for next week. And then action item will have an updated playbook for like what to do after the final release. So the next time that this the first cut goes a little smoother.
Well, thank you for mentioning that so we could write it down and make sure we track that. Okay. Open discussion items. Looks like Mario, you added something for 132, 133.
Yes. Basically, this is more of a question. So we were approached by Rian because no one told us the process if we should do something or not. So basically, what we did is we rebuilt the website every week. It's either Monday or Tuesday. And there we basically also list all the promoted features that don't have tests. And apparently in 1.32, we had 3 endpoints that were promoted that don't have a test, which is a namespace pod resize, patch read, and also the replace endpoint. And I think this should not happen. I don't know where to address this. I don't know if SIG release is the right place to do this, or if we should ping the corresponding SIG who owns those endpoints. And for 133, I mean, 133 is not yet out. The list is longer. We just want to make sure that we don't build technical debt for more and more stuff.
Yeah, so I know that, as of, was it last KubeCon or something, we went to full coverage. So we definitely don't want to regress on that. I would say the right, I think flagging us for awareness is the right thing to do, but also reaching out to the owning SIGs for those endpoints is going to bring that to resolution.
Yeah, they're ultimately going to own those tests.
So, okay, so we basically would also ping, the 6 and basically make the release team aware of it. I wrote it to Nina as well, I think yesterday, so that she's aware of 1.33, there's 1.33 issues, and for 1.32 we just need to ping the folks, I guess.
Yeah, and then officially, I mean, from the conformance perspective, that is SIG architecture.
Mm-hmm.
So also give them a heads up that this is happening.
Yeah. Okay, that basically answers my question. So I will pop in once in a while and say, hey, the list got longer. FYI.
Do we think we'd ever want to get to the point where we would block releases if we are expanding the list of untested endpoints? Feels kind of like a thing that should be there for code, like when something's code complete and it's getting in.
Yeah, I do think that is kind of like a SIG release and SIG architecture conversation.
Yeah.
I think in the past there has been reluctance to consider doing something like that because coverage wasn't complete.
Mm-hmm.
So I think now that we're in the motions of regressing, that we should look at that.
And I was just gonna say that until like code freeze or test freeze, it's I think normal to have like not conformance coverage, right? Because things are
Mhm.
going in. But at a certain point, like we should evaluate like what are the gaps and then reach out to the SIGs and make sure that they know that this new feature that they added doesn't have complete coverage. But right now, like yeah, I agree. I think we should talk to SIG architecture, get a process in place, and then also figure out which team should own it. Because right now, like code freeze is owned by enhancements, but this
Mhm.
feels more like a release signal kind of job. So kind of unclear where the responsibility lies.
I'm not sure that it's a sub-team responsibility, actually, right? I
Yeah.
think this is a SIG release top
Team-wide.
level, SIG release top level, SIG architecture,
Mhm.
and the owning teams, right? So from the perspective of tests on Kubernetes, SIG release owns the process for accepting release blocking tests, right? So in that that's under our purview, but getting those tests to a state where they would be release blocking is under the owning SIG. right? So this is a top level cross SIG conversation. I think release signal, it makes sense for release signal to be in the loop. And I think we do need to get a sense of at what point of the release do we start to get worried about tests coming in and new endpoints coming in without coverage.
Like this is definitely probably okay-ish right now because we're not, but this is probably not, right? Like we've
So I mean it's okay and it's not okay in the sense that like 132 is out the door and we have endpoints that aren't covered. Right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay. Would it be okay if I start an email thread with SIG architecture and SIG release to start discussing that?
I think that Mario should start it.
Oh, okay. Mario, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can. I can do this.
You came to our SIG meeting for work, so we're happy to provide.
We will give you work for sure.
No, I'm fine with this. I think this basically this is the topic for the for upcoming releases for 1.32. This I will basically ping the SIG directly, I guess. Yeah. All right, that answers my question. Thanks.
So yeah, just to note, outside of the endpoint, I think kicking off the conversation with architecture, like we went to SIG release, we have the discussion, we know that conformance is kind of under your purview, wanted to have like, what does this look like in the future? Because we have endpoints that have slipped already for 132, right? So I would start the conversation that way.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. I see Adolfo joined us. Do you want to go? Do you have any updates for supply chain security related things? We can bounce back to that if so. If not, then I think we are probably through the agenda.
I have a brief one.
Okay.
So we've been having a bunch of discussions mostly with the folks working on the Kubernetes security feed, because apparently there was some duplication of efforts last year. They were working on so we had a discussion last year to start moving all of the vulnerability information in the project internally in OSV, in the open source vulnerabilities format. And then some folks from working, I don't know if they were coordinating with SIG Security, started working on an OSV feed that it's already available, but instead of starting with the information in OSV directly when the SRC generates the vulnerability information, they essentially wrote a feed that reads off the Kubernetes feed as it is already published, and then they translate that into OSV. So within the project to rewrite all of this and the Vex feed and all of those ideas that we had last year, it seems that there was some miscoordination about the stakeholders. So, but we've been having some discussions, and I think we're on the same page. There is, and I would like to get some feedback from the group as whether or not this requires us to write a KEP. It is not outside facing. So the idea is, as we rewrite the internal flow of vulnerability data for the project, the experience for people outside consuming the data and all of that will not change. We have the coordination between the SIGs almost done, and it's already working. But it does involve intra-SIG coordination. So I'm not sure if this would require us to write a KEP, or we can just move faster by coordinating between the stakeholders in both SIGs.
What's your take?
My feeling is that since we're not altering any contracts or breaking anyone. But it's just like an internal remodeling of the same information. My feeling is that we don't require a KEP, but so just great documentation for the community would be enough. But I don't know.
So I think we've never made it official, but like we as in the community, SIG release has written a few of these, so it may be something that we want to consider. But like policy caps, or for SIG architecture, we do have like meta caps, like the cap about the cap things. So like because it is a policy thing, we may still want to consider a cap, even if it's like super lightweight, right? Just to because I think documentation is easy to change, in the sense that theoretically any contributor can do it, and it doesn't necessarily just have the same level of vetting that a cap would, right? So I think if we're feeling that it is a larger policy discussion, we may want to lay down a cap.
I would +1 that. I think it's also a really good way to solicit any other input or feedback during that process.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So what I would like to do is, so even as we go through that process, I would really like to start working on the on maybe a POC or something, so that we can start ironing out the especially the process that would involve in trying to find what kind of tooling we would need for the SRC, for contributors, for all of those. But yeah. So yeah, that's it. So I'll probably go maybe next week to some of the SIG security meetings, probably security tooling. I don't know how to check with them, just to finish fleshing out the details of this. That's it for me.
Cool. Thank you for the update on that. All right. Just updating the docs again. All right. Anybody have any last minute additions or other topics they'd like to discuss today? All right. So I'll summarize some actions. We are going to delay the patch releases so we can focus on getting in the Go bumps today. I'll send an email to communicate the delay. I think we assigned a action item to Marco to kind of do a update of the post-release playbook, specifically to add OBS related stuff, but we'll do a general sweep of that as well. Mario is going to start a discussion between SIG release and SIG Arch about talking about endpoint coverage. And I think that's about it. Cool. Anything else? Last call. All right. Oh, and in the chat response to can we meet up at KubeCon, Kat said we can set up something informal at the Maintainer Summit, or we can do the SIG meet and greet. I think both of those will be fun options.
We have large spaces before the actual session rooms with tables and stuff like this where people can meet.
Oh,
Can
cool.
Can we borrow them with signage, Mario? Like if we steal the sign from SIG meet and greet.
The problem is we usually only get the signage at the day of SIG meet and greet because they have it in some storage thingy thing, but you can for sure put something up. So if you bring something, you can put something up and no one will say anything.
We could go buy some poster board and some Sharpies.
You know what? I live next to a craft store, so that's fine. That's doable.
Yeah. And we have plenty of space, so there should be really there was originally the idea to also have like unconference sessions outside in this hallway because it's so big and so spacious. But we skipped this because we added some more rooms.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your Tuesday, however much that is. We're in a lot of different time zones. All right. Well, have a great rest of your week too. We'll see folks next week or tomorrow for SIG release or release
Later,
team
y'all.
meetings. Bye.
Right.